We are live. Welcome to Pins Down fourth session. Excited to have this event, see more and new faces. We are live. So the way it's gonna go is we write in a Google Doc, and Marsha, our showrunner, is gonna give us the prompt. We're gonna be talking about the world for about 20 minutes and answer any questions that you might have. And then from that perspective, we'll write for 45 minutes on the Google Doc together. And at the end, whoever wants to read their pieces, they can read their pieces and we'll reflect together. So it's pretty simple. And we'll stop writing when we hear Marsha or I say pins down. It's pretty fun, creative, collaborative event. Yeah, and welcome. So we can start talking about the world, and maybe Marsha, you can give an overview of what the world is, and then we can dive into Bryn's question, a short overview.
Okay. And do you guys want to review the entire world
or just
okay,
a
just
general,
about this?
very general.
So I'll start from the beginning and just kind of work my way down to where we are right now. And I apologize if you can't hear me. My internet is very, very bad today. So if you're asking me a question and I'm taking a little bit longer to get back to you, it's because I probably didn't hear you very well. So Parallelia is about basically it's a homeless community in the future. So we're in I can't remember the year 2087, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah,
And our Earth has been in a decline for quite some time, and it's just gone to the point where the Earth is basically just dying, and there are a lot of natural disasters. There are a lot of things that have happened that have caused people who were once financially stable to be homeless, whether it be a fire that happened in their home, an earthquake that decimated it, or a tornado, or any number of the things that could happen that could leave someone in a state of homelessness. And the people who are homeless some people have decided to, just live in a homeless community that pretty much will help them survive and protect them. And then there's another part of society who has decided that they are going to go with another way of living, which is digitization, which is invented by a group would basically would be the new government system called the Silicons. And so what the Silicons do is that they have found a way in order to change humans and parts of the earth and, all the things that come with being human into a digitized form. Now, most of the people that they have on their side are people who are willing participants, but in some cases, they absolutely do go ahead and force people into becoming digitized. And I'll explain that's all a part of the continuity as to how it happens. But there is an event that takes place in our first story where Silicon Raiders go into the tent cities, into the camps where homeless people are living, and their leader, Micah, leads the people who are being chased down, beaten, and killed by these raiders into Silicon Valley Park, which has been closed off for years to keep people out of it. No one lives there anymore. No one's working there anymore. No one's around there anymore. But it's the only part that has been preserved and, kept out. But they are able to run in there to safety. And from that part, from that time that they're able to run into safety, they have developed powers that allow them to connect to the earth and help them regenerate and restore parts of the earth where they're living and they're nurturing, and rebuild and rebuild. The silicons have also gotten stronger. They have technology that also helps them to, streamline their digitization process. And they're also still, going out and kidnapping people and all sorts of things like that. There are some battles that take place between the silicons and the earthbound, mostly when the earthbound come in to rescue people who have been taken by the silicons. And then that was the last story that we just wrote about, which was a rescue mission where the leader, Micah, had to make a very tough decision, which results in him murdering one of the people who they just rescued, who had just started in her digitization process, but was too far along to be saved. So he releases her harness and she flies out of the tank that they're driving in. And some people see it, some people don't. But that brings us to this next prompt, which is the trial for Micah. And some people are writing from the perspective of science, and some people are writing from the perspective of people who are earthbound members. And you're right, I did forget about, I keep forgetting about the silicons. They are very much a part of how this plays out. So if you are writing from the perspective of a silicon for Micah's trial, I guess I would think that you should still be writing in terms of judgment. Maybe you're thinking about what you would do if everyone has heard about Micah. He's infamous, right? So do you think he made the right decision by doing that? How far along this woman was in your care? Maybe you've seen her, maybe you didn't, but would you, as a silicon, would you have been able to track her? Maybe you would have been upset by what he did, because it meant that you lost out on a part of being able to go ahead and get to the earthbound in a really good way. But I think if you're writing from the perspective of a silicon, you're still judging Micah. This is basically everyone seeing this very revered leader and just taking a side, like just judging him. Do you think what he did was right, or do you think what he did was wrong? And I think whether you're earthbound or a silicon raider, also remembering the raiders don't really have much emotional, the emotional capacity in order to really feel too much. You're human, but you don't really have that sort of capacity. So I guess you can write from wherever, from however you can think from there.
I have
I
a
know.
question.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I would love to hear more questions from everyone too. Where exactly what's the environment? Is this
Sorry, Fabrice.
can you hear me? Is this in the earthbound camp, like out in the mountains, or is this in the city in LA? Like, where have the after the rescue mission, where do you see this trial happening? I think the internet.
Tough one for Greece.
What'd you say?
So that's a tough question, I guess.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah,
No, we couldn't.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's going, so it's, yeah, again, the internet. I'm sorry about that. It's going to be taking place at the Earthbound compound. So it's, I wanted to say that it's going to be where at the same place where they come together. So like it's their community space.
Hmm.
I haven't like designated. So let's just say it's at like the fountain. Let's just say that they build the fountain and where they come together and they worship there and they, it's also like where they have their meetings. So let's just say that that's where they're going to hold the trial at.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Hmm.
Unless yeah, let's keep it that way because there is a part where they all have to connect. Like when they put their hands and their feet into the dirt, it's that same area. So keeping it in that area, I think will be good. Um,
Good
Rolling
question.
over into the next story. Yeah. Hmm.
Kaylee has a question.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is it necessarily at the point of trial that we're writing, or is it kind of leading up to it? And, people's thoughts in that time.
So it's around the time of the trial. Um, so it's not that, you know what, it's leading up to it. It's leading up to his sentencing or what will happen. Could it be both? Um, it could be both if that's what you're feeling, if you're feeling, but it's all leading up to, we're all pretty much getting all of our feelings and emotions out about Micah right now, leading up to the part where these elders who are going to be judging him, they're going to be sentencing him and handing out his punishment or not. um so it's all leading up to it. Uh,
Mm.
What do you think of that, Marsha? I just sent something into the
hmm,
chat.
I saw that.
What do you think?
It would explain why the silicons know about it,
That
and give
mhm.
an excuse for the silicons to be there.
Yeah, right.
Maybe
And
there's
I
more.
mean, if they know what's going on,
A
well, I
mole,
mean,
exactly.
a
Yeah.
mole wouldn't help. Well,
Hey, what happened to Bryn? Doesn't Bryn have a
Oh,
mole character?
I know Bryn's
his character is more of a defective, right? And she actually does want to go back, so she could be, yeah.
Hmm. Bryn, you
That would
you
actually
seized
work
up.
out. Okay.
because internet we're having.
Oh, what? Okay. Cameron just post something. Oh, what happened to Irene? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Who's Irene again?
Irene is Aaron's mother. She's the
Oh,
one that got killed.
oh,
Hmm.
okay. Oh, okay. Oh, all right, all right. Hmm.
Yeah, I was just thinking like if because you put out there that Irene had to go because the silicons could track her. So maybe, you know how they do in some cases where something doesn't go right, to get a tracking team to figure out what happened,
Hmm.
do an investigation of what happened, like how could they have found out or
And I'm no, go ahead, sorry.
oh no, I'm No, I'm done. That was all. I just wanted to put that instance out there.
Okay, I wanted to, because since most of us have went to the last session, I wanted to just give Laurel like just an overview. Hopefully it's not super confusing. So the last session so the Earthbound went to a silicon compound, like a silicon like space for a rescue mission. And they were gonna rescue an Earthbound, a couple Earthbounds that were about to be digitized. And Irene Irene had already gone through, sort of started the process of digitization. That's where your soul literally gets digitized into the silicon world and you're like deprived of emotion. So we wrote around that. So the leader had to make the tough decision to kill her. And now this session we're thinking about like, now the Earthbounds are like, why did he kill Irene, or why did he have to do that? So everyone's just sort of wondering, like, what's gonna happen to the leader? And a lot of this, I think it could be really interesting if the Silicons do know that, then that means there's a mole in the group. Maybe there's a raid that's coming. Maybe the Silicons haven't necessarily finished they're gonna retaliate. So I wonder like if that can also be part of the exercise. So if Tim's is writing from a silicon, is saying like, how do the silicons know that yeah.
I like the investigation, I think works out better. In terms of like how it all comes together. There absolutely could be will be and are moles in the group. And that kind of leads on to the second story. Onto the next story. So yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with the investigation that is happening into Irene, because and you know what, they did take a number of people, back with them. And yeah, the investigation is absolutely on, into finding out like, how did they get in, how, whatever. But let's just take it from, they did the investigation and found out about what Micah did, from the Silicon side, they also are able to track things too. So if they have trackers in Irene, maybe they can actually like find out what happened to her. Maybe her body, when her body hit the ground, they were able to backtrack and see that it was because of her being pushed out from somewhere.
I think that's cool. I think I'm going to take up that whole idea. I think Cameron put a really good thing out there with, like if tracking goes silent, what happened? And so they send a team down to the last point and then kind of
Kaylee,
follow.
I'm reading your satellite groups of Earthbound.
Like I just wondered if it was mostly the one community of them, or if there was like more different groups around.
Yeah, that's good.
So far there's just the one. So far there's just the one. Yeah. But then there are people who are trying to get to them also. So there are, people who are also migrating from wherever they are trying to get over to the Earthbound community. So not so much satellite groups, but groups of people who are trying to join them.
Okay, thanks.
Is there any more questions?
Sorry, did someone have sorry. Go ahead. I didn't hear anything else.
Just to recap, I had a little internet weird thing go on. So the setting and what is this investigation that's going on? I snapped out for a second.
I'm not, I myself, I'm going to take over that silicon side of it, where the silicons are tracking the Irene and are going in and are going to lay out an ambush.
But what's the setting again? I was out for a second for that, so I don't.
Kind of camp.
But like
Uh-oh.
where is the camp at?
Portia's having
Yeah.
problems with.
The question, I think Marcia had stepped out. She's just joining back. I think the internet.
Yeah, she touched on it, but I didn't hear it.
From my understanding, the setting of this is like at the Earthbound camp.
Some
So
desert, desolate wasteland with a camp in it.
Okay.
Yeah, with
That's what I'm going with.
gates and large gates. Yeah.
Okay. Like a fort, like a fortress.
Hmm.
Okay.
And it takes place at the fountain, right? The trial for Earthbound.
There's a fountain involved. Yes.
Okay. So for Earthbound, it takes place at the Earthbound facility, not Earthbound facility, but what their headquarters at the fountain where they worship, or I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Does that sound correct? I believe that
does sound correct to me.
And for Silicons, I guess they're tracking.
Yeah.
And investigating, so they're out in the landscape.
Yeah, exactly. They're out in the desert, and they're gonna follow that. They're gonna pick it up from where they last got the tracking device, and they're gonna follow it to the camp, and use this as an opportunity to capture, or that's their plan, is to capture Micah. Does that sound cool?
Sounds good to me. Shall we begin? It looks like Marcia is
Oh no.
to join in. Having some
Uh-oh.
internet difficulties, but I think we should begin the writing, and I'll put a timer for 45 minutes, and then in 45 minutes I will call pins down. And let's see, I'm gonna share the link again.
Yeah, please do.
On the chat so you can have it. So you just claim a slot from writer 1 to writer 3. Let me just put your name next to it.
Cool.
There you go. It's all the way at the bottom. Like I'm gonna do B here. Okay, she's coming in again. And that's like, there is Marcia. Just waiting for Marcia to pop in.
Cameron is having trouble too.
Marcia, if you're still connecting to audio, if you can hear us, just so that you know.
Is there some kind of solar activity that's wiping out the internet today or something?
Hi, guys. I'm sorry about that again. It is a really, really bad connectivity day for me.
Wow.
No worries. We the last question that was asked is, what is the setting of the place? And then Cameron mentioned that it's at the sanctuary, the headquarters, the fortress. So it's like the trials being held at the fountain, a place of worship for the Earthbound. And I went ahead and posted the link on the chat so we can start.
That is correct.
The writing process.
All right.
All right. Well, if there is any questions, this is the final time for the questions, if you don't understand. So pick a character and start free writing. It's a flash story, so it could be 50 words to 500 words to 600 words, 1,000 words. There's no right or wrong answer here. So it is just a collaborative experience. So.
All right, cool.
Super.
Yep.
All right, I put the timer on.
All righty.
45 minutes will stop. All right. Pins down. Pins down, pins down. All right. So who wants to start first to read? Oh,
Okay, I guess I can go.
all right.
All right, I did not get to finish, but I will tell you where the story was going. 1 second, let me just get to it. Okay. All right. My father, Maccabee, grew up in Oakland, California, on a farm that his mother, Anna, started during one of the food shortages that happened after the government claimed it as a part of the land tax. It was small, about the size of a backyard, but she was able to buy more when others around decided to sell and join the lines of people who were promised direct meals and lodging if they accepted the government's new living plan, a safe way to live. Maccabee didn't have much to talk about unless it was about soil or engines, but he would find a way to talk about his mother any chance he got. Your gran was smart, the smartest of them all, because she stayed with the earth and didn't let promises take her away from what she knew she needed to do. She raised 3 kids on that land and taught us how to take care of the earth and ourselves. I remember the way they would come around dressed like farmers and asking the price for a few pounds of ginger, then follow up with, you know, if you signed up for the A Safe Way to Live program, you don't have to worry about all of this dirt that isn't going to produce anything in a few years from now anyway. She wouldn't say a word, just let the price, just the price and the stare that let them know that she had a countdown going in her head. We would laugh just watching them turn. We would laugh just, sorry, we would just laugh watching them hurry away from our plots and over to the next. When I was 16, my dad and I lost the crops to an invasive species of insects that everyone thought was harmless. No one knew what it was, and it was small enough not to be visually annoying and didn't bite. Didn't even bother the crops until after the fires killed off most of the trees, leaving only what we had grown as vegetation for them. For a while, we noticed little holes in the leaves, but nothing else. Then the roots started showing like a tornado came through and only aimed for them. That's when problems started. At first, we tried pesticides and even getting wild chickens to try and eat them, but nothing worked. Pulling up the food we had and planting them inside of pots saved some of the ones that kept growing. But 2 years later, the crop stopped growing entirely. So this is like Micah's story going into the reason why he did what he did. So it turns out that Micah was actually the one who brought back the invasive species of insects. And it was because he didn't do what his father told him to do every time he came back from being in the forest that's been burnt down and like trying to regrow back and things like that. And it was that before you came back onto the farm, you would actually ditch your clothes, all of your outside clothes, like ticks and everything else that would come on your clothes with you. You would ditch them before you even got into the house outside and like put on something else in order to like go inside. And because of that, that's his level of thinking when it comes to why he decided to kill Irene before she even came back into, because if it is something that will harm everyone else and everything else and disrupt it and kill it off, then you have to take the necessary precautions. So that's pretty much where the story was going. I'll finish it and submit it to Cameron.
I love that. I really like that. I like the details. It's very visual. I feel like I'm immersed in it. I like how you took Micah's character to sort of go back into his past. Very, very powerful.
Thanks. His father comes up a bit. It's pretty much who teaches him everything he knows, and I think maybe somewhere in the ending I'll write a bit more about like how they got separated and how his dad dies. But yeah.
Marsha, that was really cool. I love the connection between that and the motivation behind it. Just one suggestion: when you go and you edit later, just try and like, one of the things that kind of stopped me, took me out of the story, was terms like food shortages or species of insect. You know what I mean? Try and use like famine or
Right.
you know what I mean? Like just more evocative vocabulary, I think would be just kind of keep us more in the story itself. But I know we're under time pressure here. You just kind of put it out there, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. But cool story. Otherwise,
Cool. Thanks.
very nice.
Any other thoughts before we move on to the next person?
I like flashbacks. I used to not, and I like them a lot more now. I think that they function great to define a character.
I think so.
Good job bringing the earth
Thank
and
you.
bringing the
Thank you,
literal
Bryn.
earth into the earthbound.
I love that. I am happy to go next because I went. Thank you, Marsha. This is like absolutely amazing. I took a different take. I kind of like, anyways, you'll see. I'm just gonna go and just read. So this is from the Journal of Poya. So I'm continuing from the same character from last time. Okay. Everything I had ever dreamed of was crumbling to pieces. Tiny pieces I could not hold in my hands. This wasn't the earthbounds that I had known of. Everyone was speaking about Micah Stroud. They brought him in handcuffs to the back of the compound in a large red and blue metal cargo container. Tomorrow he was going to be tried in a large dome at the center of the earthbound fortress. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think clearly. Micah taught me everything I knew about this world when my father died and got digitized. Between the ashes that fell from the red sky, we tried to create a safe haven for everyone here. We tried to organize the workers into collectives who could take ownership of different parts of this place, build something new, this dying world I'd never seen before, something less abusive, less capitalist, less machinery in the teeming parts we're seen as we're grinding dust that we became, that this country had formed. The earthbounds were the promised wonderland for everyone around the world. It was Micah who first broadcasted on the hidden radio waves his message of hope. I still remember when I was really young with my father hiding in New Mexico, and we were making our way through the desert sands in a abandoned town, empty cars and desert streets. We locked ourselves in the bathroom of a dilapidated gas station, awaiting the sandstorm rattling the windows. It was then the radio sounded. Whomever is out there, whomever is listening to this message, my name is Micah, the leader of Earthbound. I tell you, there is hope. There is a promised land, a future for humanity. Whoever is listening to this, travel to the west. The Earthbound awaits you. It's a safe haven for everything. We are rebuilding the world. It was then when all hope was lost that Father began his journey here. Now this dream was fading away. This was not Micah, the Micah I heard over the radio. It was not the Micah that took care of me. How could he do this? How could this even be a possibility? I needed answers. It was eating at me. I feel disappointed. I feel betrayed. I feel that Micah will have to answer for this murder, the murder of Irene. We cannot build a new society, a new world when we have blood on our hands. We cannot. We just cannot. I went to see him last night, even when it was not permitted for anyone. Luca owed me for the cheese and bread I brought to him and his lover. I saw Micah. They tied him down in the cells in an old metal freight. When Luca opened the door for me, it creaked a large metal sound. Micah was there on the floor, with his legs crossed together, his eyes closed, praying. How could he pray in such time? He was so calm. Micah, I screamed at him. Then he opened his eyes. I walked back a bit. He got up. I've been expecting you, my young Poya. He told me with a calmness and a demeanor that was grounding. You have? I replied in shock. How could he know I would come in at this specific time? You have a mission to complete, Poya. There are things happening that you don't know of in the earthbounds. He told me. I didn't understand what he was saying. I just didn't. Inside my belly, I felt anger. I felt sadness. How could you kill Irene? I saw you that day, I told him, approaching him. He placed his hands and brushed off his shirt as he approached me. Poya, you're the future of the earthbound. You and so many young souls in this camp, he said. How can you be so calm? I screamed at him. Tears began flowing down my face, and I continued. What about your promise? What about what you told me that night about the world we could build together? I said, smashing my little hands on his chest. Everything all right? Luca entered and looked at us. Micah nodded and placed his hands up. Was he in control? Was he not a prisoner? I fell to the floor on my knees and I was sobbing. Why did it have to be Irene? Why? Tell me why. We saved her. Get up, my young child. Get up now. The world wants to crush us. This world wants to erase your soul. You cannot falter with sadness. Use your anger and rise to build something new. My time here is coming to an end. Into the earth, I will join back with the souls of the past, he said, and looked at me and wiped my tears with his hands. Poya, you can never repeat this, never to anyone. Irene left me a message for you. She told me that in the back garden near the aviaries, she buried something for you. What? I said with shock. She told me to kill her, She told me to kill her. She told me to release the lever, but there are forces in the earthbound that threaten us. I have to be killed, as it was prophesied, he said. There was a silence that ensued. I looked back at Luca, who was listening at our conversation, and his face was in sadness. You have to tell the elders the truth, I screamed, and he placed his hands over my mouth to silence me, shaking his head. Luca knew. He knew all this time too. How many people knew? And why is this happening? I have to let the young seeds sprout. Only you will build the upcoming change. An old geezer like me has outgrown his time, he said with a smile, closing his eyes. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Irene had told him to kill her. If this was true, then this trial is part of something bigger, something I had no grasp of.
Wow.
Thank you.
Definitely layering a lot of world building in there.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So that's a major plot mover. I think what you're doing there, right? You're getting, I mean, so that's something I think that like foundational to the story
So,
is this scene.
so Fabrice, the only other thing is like I know that you pretty much like move stories. So, and I like always liking the dialogue and the emotion that your stories bring to the characters. You brought in something different where it was just like he's saying that Irene said that she wanted to be killed, like, and it's a really good question, like, is he telling the truth? Is he lying? Is this another part of Micah that we're seeing? Like, I don't know, because I never put it in there that he said that, she wanted to. I'm sorry again, guys. Of course, the internet. Did you guys hear any of that? You're frozen.
Yeah, we did.
Am I frozen? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh God.
No,
Okay. All right. Sorry.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I just think that for the continuity, that part of it might be a part. I'd like to keep it in there because it adds a bit more texture to who Micah is. He could be a liar to some people. He could be someone that tells the truth to other people. You know, it's yeah, I like the textures of it. Yeah.
Super.
Yeah. Your characters have so much emotion.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Get it. No, yeah, this is I think, yeah, a lot of it I was thinking, I was like, maybe there could be an interesting twist, because if there's a mole in the Earthbound, or if there's like people that are not necessarily fully, so what would need to happen to, like, I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, we can go to the next person. Yeah, this was, yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Whoever wants to read next.
I always feel like I should kind of a
Wait,
counterpoint. Yeah, just like I'm a counterpoint because I'm doing the Silicon side. But Brent, are you also doing Silicon side?
Kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
Ish.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
dive as
what-
deeply as you do
What's that?
into I don't dive as deeply as you do into the
Yeah.
Silicon side.
Okay.
I mean, I can go.
Yeah, sure. why not?
Fabrice has that scroll there. Yeah. I'll go ahead and start reading. High above the earth, overlooking a dreamlike city, Syllble reclined in her chair, padded with white cushions. Everything was a blinding white. Nothing in the Silicon's world was dark. Dark was dust, imperfection, cracks in the seams of the world. Once, Syllble had found the imperfection to be what made the world beautiful, but beauty was a distant memory. Other people reclined in the same room as her, but she never had the desire to talk with them. Talking with people wasn't functional. It was a purely emotional state, something that brought joy. Her vision changed, enveloped by an urgent broadcast. A banner ran across the bottom. End of the Earthbound has come. She'd seen at least 3 other broadcasts in the same month with a similar headline. Each time, whoever was reporting was certain it was the end of them. Instead, small part of Syllble rooted for what was once her people. An image popped into view of a fountain with 3 levels. Around it, the dirt-smudged faces of Earthbound surrounded it. A hologram of a reporter walked into the center of the meeting, pointing out at the tall figure of Micah, restrained on both sides with rope. The reporter with long purple hair said that Micah's end had come. The mouths of the Earthbound moved, but the broadcast didn't project their voices. As we speak, the Earthbound tear themselves apart, she said. Without a strong central leader, the Earthbound will splinter and eventually dissolve. Before digitization started, it was the same with other charismatic creatures of megachurches, just like those. Micah is a virus, a dictator. Syllble tried to switch back to the Silicon world, but she couldn't. While this reporter was speaking, she wasn't appealing to emotion, but reason. It was the only human thing Syllble had left. Reason. Reason told her to be upset at Micah, but her emotion would have told her not to trust everything she heard if she still had it. Holding on to her emotion was rational to her. It was ever so difficult for her, like trying to navigate her parents' tent blindfolded. She knew what she was supposed to feel, what she was supposed to be, but she could never be certain. While our precious Silicon forces surround the Earthbound, they are too absorbed in their own matters to notice, the reporter said. Micah is on trial for killing one of his own. So the blacked out image Syllble had seen was Micah. What she had seen back at the Silicon facility was him. To save our precious resources, our forces stand still, the reporter said. In the coming minutes, we hope to see the Earthbound reach a sentence for their leader. This sentence will no doubt force infighting amongst themselves. We hope to maintain fewer casualties when that happens. 2 faces behind the reporter stuck out. The woman rested her head on her husband's shoulder. She could see her parents, but the love she had for them didn't reach her. Reason told her she loved them. As this situation unfolds, expect a triumphant broadcast following this exciting story, the reporter said. The next instant, Syllble was back. Her hand was extended out, even though she had no recollection of doing so. Reason told her that if she had her emotions, she would feel terrible, but she didn't. She wasn't panicked. She wasn't sad that her parents could be captured, digitalized, or killed. A shadow cast over her, and she sat up to see a woman with a tattered brown coat standing there. The woman's eyes were set straight ahead. But it was strange. It was like she was real. Flies orbited her curly hair. I remember it was like what it was like to feel, the woman said. And I don't know quite where that character is going, but yeah. And so my thing here is that the mole is actually able to recreate this space. So that's what they're able to see because of what the mole is doing. So they have
VR?
kind of like VR. Yeah, they're creating a VR space for the reporter to be in.
Reporter. That actually, I was a little confused by that.
It's like a news reporter, newscaster.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just like a news thing.
Oh,
Wait, so
nice.
this is really great. I love the perspective. So give me a little input. So Syllble is digitized, right? So is she in the Silicon world, that digital world now? And I guess that is a world building question, because it's like, so she's in the digital world, but she still has access to the physical world, in terms of what's happening. I guess
So-
that, yeah.
So she's a raider, right?
She was originally guarding the facility whenever the Earthbound attacked.
Right.
And so she wasn't really a raider, like she was more of a defensive kind of raider. And so she came back to the Silicon world for this time, for whatever reason. So now she's just relaxing, either on her time off or whatever that may be.
I love
Very
it.
cool. Very cool world building.
Yeah. Sorry, Brent, I lost you there, but I got most of it and I read the rest. I really like the way that you like made the world a bit more convenient with making sure to like keep everyone still in the loop with the reporter. I didn't really think about that sort of stuff about how people got their information, or like if the world is actually, if we're going back to how we do get our information and stuff like that. But that's actually a really great way to have everyone in the loop in terms of like Micah's trial and, you know, this infamous guy and stuff like that. So great job on that. And so the way that you wrote Syllble's feelings are pretty spot on because of her slight transformation of silicon of digitization, but yet still being very human. She should feel versus what she actually doesn't feel. So yeah, I really like it as usual.
Yeah, that was powerful. The idea.
And I don't know if you heard anything that I said.
I did hear what you said.
So
All of it came through.
Yeah, you're fun. Okay, hey, you know what? Let me go next. I'm actually gonna have to get off after pretty soon because I have to go somewhere today. So why don't I go next? And mine's I'll do it. I didn't get much done on it. But let me get it.
You're writing from the Silicon, right?
Yep, that's right.
Super.
Where am I at?
Tim, sorry, before you go,
Yeah.
my idea was just to put this out there, is
Oh.
that the Silicon were actually waiting for the trial to end, because the chaos that ensues after the trial ends may cause the Earthbound to splinter, which would make it easier for the Silicon Raiders to come in. So, I mean, it probably doesn't change much about yours, but
No, that's cool. It sounds to me like there's a gap in the communications in the Silicon, and that might be something the Earthbound can exploit because my guys are on the hunt. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Actually, it's also the way I'm directing this kind of a bigger picture in this whole thing. But anyway, this is I'll just read it out right now. Silicon Team Predator Green swooped over the desert wastelands in 2 hyper choppers. The new recruit, Reg 4, licked her lips nervously as she stared at the scratched thermoplastic of the portal. What's out there, sir? Meat walker, soldier. Team leader Moth 67 responded, impressed by her boldness in speaking to him directly. Most recruits would be too scared to address an officer in such a familiar manner. You ever been in combat, soldier? She shook her head. This is my first mission. He nodded and grinned a little. Nervous? Shrugged. Not sure. No worries, you'll do fine. Remember your training. And remember, these earthbound meat walkers are not human. They're beasts, you understand me? Rapacious, marauding beasts who want to return human civilization to the Stone Age. Or worse, just end it. Extinction. That's what their aim is, to terminate the human race. Moth 67 stood up to face the soldiers, buckled into their seats along the walls of the craft. Sit up. We'll be touching down in 5. This is the last signal we received from the mole we had inside the Earthbounders camp. Meat walking slag was close to that Micah a-hole. We don't know what happened to her, Irene or something. Doesn't matter. We're going to touch down at the point where we last got the signal and track the scum from there. Any questions? Nobody moved. Then that Okie, Jagu 8, raised his hand. Moth 67 sighed. Yeah, Jagu? Captain, sir, me and the crew was wondering, if we get this Micah dude, do we get some kind of reward? Like, I don't know, like leave or something? Jagu, if we get Micah today, I personally guarantee that we all get a 2-week leave to the Silicon Valley of Paradise. Crew erupted in cheers. The Valley of Paradise. 2 weeks in Silicon Nirvana. Wine, champagne, virgins, and whatever kind you could ever imagine. Moth 67 grinned as the hyperchopper descended. Now he had a motivated crew. The warning buzzer sounded as the hyperchopper abruptly descended from the clear blue sky. Moth 67's gut was in his throat, but he had long since gotten used to this. The chopper hit the ground with a lurch, and the hatch opened with a smooth hydraulic hiss. Let's move. He launched himself down the ramp into the brilliant sunshine of the desert. Digital readout on its face shield told him the ambient temperature was 55 degrees Celsius, but inside its climate-controlled flight suit, he was cool and comfortable. Soldiers fanned out into defensive positions surrounding the hyperchoppers. Moth 67 gave the pilots a thumbs up, and the 2 aircraft promptly ascended and disappeared over the horizon. In the quiet that followed, Moth 67 stared at the ground, the surrounding dun-colored hills, devoid of plants beyond some straggly weeds, the wind a steady whisper against his fight suit. Recruit, you're Reg 4. Come over here and tell me what I'm looking at. She was short, thin, but she moved with the grace of a panther within her fight suit. She trotted over to him. Sir, scanning the ground. A caravan came through here recently, she said, into the mic fixed in the fight suit helmet. How recently? Paused as she crouched down and put her white gloved hand down to the earth. Then she surprised him by removing her glove and gently touching the dry, dusty sand with her delicate nut brown fingers. She looked up at him. Yesterday, maybe 24 hours ago. The soil is dry and composed of silicates that don't adhere well. Any longer and the wind would have flattened the tracks. Moth 67 raised his brow. That's good, soldier. What else? The Reg stood as she put her glove back on. Blood. It wasn't a battle, but someone died here. Moth 67 nodded. Exactly correct. Someone died here. That someone was our mole, and that's why we're here. Jagu 8, you got any thoughts in that dim Okie brain of yours where this caravan might be heading? The short, squat Okie scanned the horizon. Captain, that away. And that's all I got.
Nice.
So the idea here is that it's a bit corny, but anyway, the larger thing is that this new recruit. The reason I'm kind of bringing in the goal. My goal is that Moth 67 is going to ultimately betray the Silicons as he learns that the whole thing is a lie. I've got this idea, Marshall. Maybe I should touch base with you that actually what is happening with the Silicons is that it's just a giant algorithm that feeds on data, and that it's actually what happens is that these souls are just feeding this mindless computer that's reached this huge pinnacle of power. There's no sense to it. There's no morality to it. There's no right or wrong. And he's going to realize that the war that they've been fighting has been without any meaning at all. And that this new recruit, she's actually a Cherokee Indian, and that she's deploying like skills she learned as an Earthbounder in this war, and so it's going to kind of these little cracks in his own view of the Silicons. That's kind of the larger picture.
Really powerful. I
I
love
like the story a lot. And I do like that. Let's touch base on it. And mostly because my internet is so unstable that I only heard the beginning part of what you said, but it sounds really good. And I
part
think
was
it
the
would be a
best.
good way to interject like pretty much like the war that they'll have
Mm.
and who wins and who loses and why. The next two or the last two, and I really wanted the ending to be pretty solid. So the next just to give you guys a heads up, next prompt that I'm thinking of is Aaron's revenge, or it's basically where Aaron was Irene's son. It's, let's say 16 or 18 years later. And Micah is pretty much on his deathbed, and his son Malik has now taken over. And Aaron, who is told the truth about his mother, he knows about it. He goes over to the Silicon side, and he also like becomes a defector.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's it like those two stories can like match up to where
Oh, wow.
Aaron gives them so much power that the Silicons do have like the upper hand on the Earthbound, but then the Earthbound can actually take over and win if people do realize that, yeah, it's pretty much just another like feeding the machine sort of
Right.
thing.
Exactly.
You're not actually doing anything. You are just dying out quicker. I guess it's,
Yeah, that's
and
pretty
it's
cool.
in a different way. Yeah.
That's so the twist is going to be that the good guys become the bad guys, and the bad guys become the good guys.
Well, are there any good guys or are there any bad guys? Everyone's
Yeah.
just trying to
Now
live.
we're getting meta.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's a cool twist. So the hero of the story will actually end up betraying, and it's kind of a dual betrayal.
Yeah.
Nice. That's good. That's cool.
Before we head out, I don't know if Kaylee wanted to read hers, but if not, that's perfectly okay. And I wanted to say as well, I'm wondering what happens when the Silicon Team Predator Green goes into the Earthbound compound with like their full force.
But they don't get him somehow.
What'd you say?
Yeah.
They don't get him because he survives, and 18 years later he's on his deathbed. So something goes wrong. We'll have to see.
I'm intrigued to see what about the trial. There's so much.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating.
Haley, are you gonna go?
Oh, yeah, I don't particularly have to read.
Come on, do it anyway. Just give it a try, just this one time.
Well, I guess I can just kind of summarize kind of where I was kind of, situating my piece, I guess.
Okay.
So my character, who is or was a Silicon character, has kind of already actually, I don't know if it's defected, but they're kind of back with the Earthbound side kind of now. Because in the first piece they were meant to be digitizing someone who came in, but like at the last minute they changed their mind and didn't end up digitizing them. So now they've kind of gone off and ended up at least partly back with some Earthbound people. But that's why I was asking the question earlier about whether there's like satellite communities, because it's not really they're not really directly engaged with Micah. So I ended up kind of doing this in somewhat a group of people whose in theory, trying to join Micah, but like where I was heading was they're going towards where they now think about like that whole idea of joining Micah and the others. In light of what's happened, but I didn't really get that far.
Kelly, you want me to do it?
So wait, I just have one question. So is it a group of people who are earthbound, but maybe they don't think that they want Micah to be their leader, or is it a group of people who are not fully yet earthbound and are trying to get to Micah in order to become like earthbound, or they're just people who are just like, I'd rather live on my own in this other part and not be silicon and not be earthbound? Like,
so mostly I was imagining that they're earthbound people who they're like they're trying to get to the main group, but then I guess because of like the harshness of the life they've lived, they're kind of like a bit tentative about it because they don't know what might happen, but now they're kind of a bit more tentative because they heard that I
like that. Yeah. People who, because people are migrating toward the earthbound every day. And obviously learning that Micah, the leader, is capable of murder if you've been tainted, they don't know exactly like the full story. They just know that he rescued someone and threw him out of a moving tank and murdered them. And it happened to be a mother of a little boy. And so, that would cause a very big pause, right? So, I like that. I do like the last two stories that you've been writing with us have been really good. I think that adds another like level to it also, of the way that people see Micah. And I really wanted everyone to just kind of like, narrow down those feelings on this leader, so that the ending, no one really knows who's like, you can pick who's good or bad, but that's your choice. I think both groups are just trying to live in the best way possible, which is what humans do. So I think what everyone did and has been doing in the story, and definitely did it again this week, was really good. It's like leading up to the ending. And again, I had I'm not able to hear everything that everyone is saying because my computer keeps pausing. And my internet is really bad today. So if you can't hear me also, I apologize for that. But the gist of it is that I like all the stories. I like where they're heading.
Hey, Marcia, you got 2 windows open.
I do.
Yeah.
Let me.
It looks that way, right?
I'm gonna stop the live session. Thanks for everyone for tuning in.
Cool.
I will stop it